Welcome, listeners, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Gift of Gaming podcast. Do you like stories? I like stories, and so do my guests today. This episode, we're talking all about video game lore. So sit down, relax, grab a cup of tea, and get ready to listen. All right, it's me, it's your host. Forever and always, I'm never leaving this chair. You'll have to peel me out of it. It's me, Darren Wade, and today I'm joined by the lore seekers themselves, the guys who love to talk about stories, Colm Nolan. Colm.
Hi, Darren. Hi, Chris. Hey. How are we all today?
We're good.
Doing
We're good. That leads me into, and thank you for segueing into the other person. It's the PC playing, console hating, full-time Canadian himself, Chris Robbins. Chris, how are you?
I think you might have to add Lore Seeker to that title now.
Oh, you like that one?
Yeah, I like that title.
At the front or the back?
Yeah.
You know, where do you want that?
Well, yeah, we'd have to find some way to
PC
work it into
playing, console hating, lore seeking, full-time Canadian.
Yeah,
Chris Robbins.
Yeah, love it.
You did it.
Yeah.
First try, baby.
I always wanted to make a D&D character that's strictly based around like the lore of the land. So you'd have like probably a wizard have a notebook and write down like all the enemies and what their weaknesses and what they might be strong against. And like,
So you just be like the encyclopedia for the party?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be good fun, but you'd want to be on, you know?
Yeah, you'd have to. Yeah.
Just remember everything. So how are you guys doing? Any news? Any strange things? Colm, it's your birthday tomorrow. Happy early birthday. Or when this releases, it will have been your birthday yesterday. Ooh.
Thanks very much for all the happy birthday wishes on my birthday, everybody. Jeez.
So I guess it'd be correct for me to say happy belated birthday to you for our Wednesday listeners.
And if you say that, thank you very much. That's very sweet.
You're welcome. You're welcome. We went out for some pool for your birthday. That was fun.
We did indeed this weekend. Yeah. Thank you very much for coming on out. You can't beat a good game of pool, a couple of beers and whatnot. But yeah, no, other than that, I just played a little bit of games and stuff. Like, you know, I had to have a bit of recovery. Like, I can't handle beer as well as I used to. Mm-hmm. So my hangovers are mostly filled with breaking out the Switch or busting on the PS5. One of the above.
That's why you got to drink whiskey.
I don't know if that's going to be better.
My liver doesn't agree either way. Yeah.
What about you, Chris? Did you get up to anything at the weekend?
Not much. I actually, sorry, I missed that pool thing. I'm having a dry May myself, so I didn't really want to be in a pub around all the booze. So I just did some life maintenance this weekend, and also played a whole lot of video games as we do. Yeah.
Very nice. And can I also draw attention, because the listeners won't know this, but Chris is clean shaven and has a fresh new do.
So,
yeah, it's true.
So there is other bigger news that happened this weekend is the Leafs. Because of the big disappointment they're out of the playoffs. So my playoff beard is gone.
That beard was associated with your playoff. I like that.
Yeah.
Very good.
That must be a Canadian thing, I'm guessing.
We grow beards when we play sports. Yeah, I 100%ed Advance Wars 1 over the weekend.
Very nice.
Yep, pretty proud of myself. What amazes me about that game is I must have played the shit out of that when I was a kid, because I remembered all of those levels.
Oh, that's amazing.
And all of the tactics. I was like, this game is easy. Kids game, easy peasy. Yeah, so I got it, so I won. But I suppose before we crack into our episode, I do have some housekeeping to go on with. So the first point is we're going to talk about games and their lore in this episode, and there will 100% be spoilers.
Yeah.
So we'll mention our game before we start to speak, and if it's a game you haven't played and you feel like listening to, maybe fast forward 5 or 10 minutes until we've stopped talking about it and come back in. That's your warning, and that's the only warning you're getting. That's the spoiler warning. That's it. If you hear something you shouldn't have, it's your own fault. After this, I'm not taking any responsibility. Other housekeeping is, if you like the content and you haven't already checked out our Patreon, you can check it out at patreon.com/gift of gaming. And then there we have loads of post-show episodes. Last week, we did... What was our post-show last week? Oh, my God. Oh, I asked Craig and Andrew would they have saved Ellie.
Oh, from The Last of Us.
Yeah, to see what they would have done. And it's a new series of post shows I'm putting together where I'll put you guys in the seats of some video game characters to see what you would have done in their shoes. You know,
I remember this argument from years ago. Did Craig's opinion still remain the same?
I have to say, I was like fixing the episode up afterwards, you know, like and listening to it, and he made it unbelievably good. I think Andrew at one point, so he made it just a really, really good point. Like, he put it very eloquently, which is unusual for Craig.
Yeah.
But he put it very eloquently to the point where Andrew was sitting beside him. Andrew was like, wow, Craig, Like that was pretty deep, you know, and it was very, very good. No, Craig, actually, I can't say. Listen to the post show. Then, Chris,
okay.
you almost fucking, you almost ruined the whole Patreon thing. Yeah, you want to hear that shit? You got to subscribe, motherfuckers. But after that, you want to get involved in the conversation. Tell us about some of the video games that you love and their lore. You can email us at thegiftedgamingpodcast@gmail.com. And I think that covers all of our housekeeping. I should say, actually, I was checking the analytics of the podcast there recently just to see where people were listening from. Oh. So if they are still listening, hello to our listeners in the US and hello to our listeners in Belgium and Indonesia and the Philippines. That's right, fellas. That's how far we've stretched our fingers to the one person in Indonesia.
Or someone's VPN.
Yeah, which is probably a far more likely situation. Yeah.
But a VPN through Indonesia?
Well, so
they might have good Netflix.
Choice. Yeah, maybe.
I think it, like, we were laughing. I released a song with the band there over last week, and our drummer Bruno was trying to get a few extra hits in. So he was like, "Don't worry, guys, I got a pretty nasty VPN going." So he decided listening from, Afghanistan, Portugal, Brazil, everywhere he could, just to get the listens up. So, but enough about that, guys. We're a couple minutes in and we haven't even started our topic, which I assume will be a big one because we're talking about lore, our favorite lore in video game series. And which one of you two guys wants to kick it off?
You know what? I'll kick it off with what is actually I lament about this one a bit. It's a franchise I love, but it's my dishonorable mention, and it's only because I recently picked up Resident Evil 7. Started playing that for the first time. Fantastic game. They nailed the horror. It's so scary. But yeah, as I do, I did a recap on the Resident Evil timeline, the story, and just like what the fuck is going on. And I still don't really know. Like, Resident Evil started off amazing. I mean, obviously it's low-hanging fruit, but, evil corporation playing around with chemicals, trying to make a bioweapon, releases zombie plague. I don't think it ever had to go past that, because they eventually introduced like parasites that would infect people. And don't get me wrong,
the Los Plagos, something there.
Yeah, exactly. Which was Resident Evil 4,
which is
one
great.
of the best games. Yeah. But did it need to be parasites? And how does this tie into the story? And it's those were used to develop the virus at some point. And I'm just like, why? Why can't Leon and Chris just be some sort of part of some sort of elite tactical group that goes and handles these sort of supernatural situations? Does it all have to be tied into Umbrella? Can't we just have other bad guys?
And the ties can be so weak at times.
So weak.
Because there's so many Resident Evil games out there. I think I might have mentioned it before, but I went over to see my brother in London a couple of times, and he had these kind of arcade Resident Evil games that would have come out.
The rail shooters?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I actually enjoyed that. I had that for the Wii. It was Umbrella Chronicles, I think.
Yes.
1 and 2. And it was basically like playing a Time Crisis or something like that with the Wii. I don't know, it'd be like with a controller.
It was
stupid
awful.
As well.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't fun.
Did you have a PlayStation or was it on the Wii?
No, it was on the PlayStation. It was on his PlayStation 4. So he
that
downloaded
sounds
them.
terrible.
But
then.
in terms of lore, it was so wacky. At this point, I don't know how many games they have under their belts. Do you know what I mean? If 5 and 6 were at this stage by the time they made these, I'm not quite sure. But yeah, it gets wacky and stupid.
And they did a particularly bad job with the Nemesis variants in that one, where it's just big bulging heart. Obviously, it's a rail shooter, so they were just shoot here. But I was just
Yeah, I get you. But no, the Resident Evil definitely they have some very, very cool ideas, and they just have never capitalized on it. The series is. The first one is known because it's so scary, just the camera angles, and they do that for 2 and kind of 3. Then it takes on to 3D, and 4 was great because it broke that ground.
And
but then
it became a bit more
that,
of an action, things were a bit more in your hands.
Since that 5, 6, and even 7, they're not very good. I enjoyed 5 to an extent.
I enjoyed 5, but you could definitely tell that's where things started to slip a bit.
Yeah.
6 fell apart, but 7...
So they brought it back. Yeah, I
7, and they went in a completely the same thing that they did with Resident Evil 4. They went in a whole new direction where it became first person, and there's even some you guys can't see me, but I'm doing a wobble right now. There's screen wobble to
for our audio listeners.
Yeah, to simulate it's really immersive. It feels like you're walking, and when you're running, it's a bit more jittery.
Was 7 the VR game as well, or was that which one was the one?
There is a VR variation.
Oh, is that Biohazard though?
7 is Biohazard.
Okay, so that was the one, the BR one, yeah. So what would be your favorite? So you said Resident Evil dishonorable in terms of you like it, but you think the lore is a bit stupid.
Yeah. There's stories that they shouldn't be trying to piece together. Like it's very loose.
And they made an incredible villain in Wesker, and just
Wesker was amazing.
But they just couldn't let him die.
No,
couldn't let that name die.
I don't know if he died at the end of 5. I think he did, but then his son is in like 6, and it's just crap.
Yeah,
like,
you're no Wesker.
Yeah, but Wesker is a very cool character.
He's in the Rift now, killing survivors. It's a Dead by Daylight reference.
See, Chris is the horror expert. I need to get more horror in me. So if that's your dishonorable mention, what would be an honorable mention, or the one that you want to get into?
Okay, so I'll let you guys talk a bit too, because I got a few I want to talk about, but I might as well just get this out of the way. My absolute favorite, any active listeners to this podcast would know, is the Soulsborne series, and it has a lot to do with like the delivery of the story and like the community involvement, piecing it together. I really enjoyed everything about what that series brought to the table, and not just the Soul series, obviously, because my favorite of them all is actually Bloodborne, because I'm a big H.P. Lovecraft fan, and I really liked the story and the atmosphere in that one specifically. So, but I mean, I've gone in great depth and details, and I think even Colm mentioned he might be wanting to talk about.
In fairness, now I've played Dark Souls 1 and 2, and I've played Bloodborne as well. I never got to 3, and I haven't done the other.
3 is really, if you enjoyed them, 3 is really good. But honestly, everyone should at least play Dark Souls 1 just because.
Yeah.
Near perfect.
I think I played that on the Xbox 360 and cleared that. That was a kind of proud moment as well, because it was one of those games that is frustrating, and then you just kind of learn to accept it and understand that, from the later games, like, right, this is exactly what I'm getting myself in for.
So what is it about the lore in Dark Souls games that you enjoy so much? How is it actually, because I've never played them, how is it delivered in those games?
So a lot of it is it's really cryptic. So you'll meet these NPCs that are just like, one is literally called the Crestfallen Warrior. So they just give you tidbits of information, but they're just super disinterested. And the other thing is, like, every time you get an item, it'll have like a description and then a little like bit of history, like where it might have come from. But that's only one of it. Like that, like the helmet will say a bit, and the armor, like the chest piece, will say a bit more. So you have to like piece it together.
Oh, so like a full style of armor will have its own little piece of history in there.
Yes, and it'll be talking about these like there was one in Dark Souls 2, the Frozen Warriors, and it talks about them, but you've never heard of that area. You've never heard Frozen mentioned. You've never heard an NPC talk about it, but there's like other items or like spells that'll like you'll find and it'll mention it more, or maybe you'll come across an MP, like a secret quest line, and you'll find out like he might be from that area or something. You'll get a bit more information, and then you might not have all the pieces, so then you go to Reddit. You talk to somebody who's like translated something from Japanese, and just like, oh, this translation like should actually include this bit, and you're like, people are piecing it together. It's so fun.
Because I think there's such a fan base, especially with the lore surrounding those the Bloodborne games, or whatever. But when the DLC was announced for Elden Ring and they gave a screenshot on it, Reddit went fucking mental about like just taking what was on that screenshot alone, or who they thought was in the screenshot, and what they thought everything in the screenshot of this thing meant. Like, people went fucking deep on that. And I was reading, like, I've never played the game before in my life, so I have no idea what the hell they were talking about. I was like, these guys are going
the deep. Absolute best content creator for Souls lore goes by the name like Vadi Vidya on YouTube. He made a 15-minute video on that picture alone. Something like 15 minutes.
Just a screenshot, like.
Yeah, exactly. Single screenshot.
One thing as well, like in Dark Souls, I'm not sure if Bloodborne is probably a different universe, and then Sekiro and all them are probably like later or like different worlds and stuff. But I know that like with Dark Souls, like a lot of shows have kind of like taken inspiration from, or no, it's taken inspiration from like the world of Berserk.
Oh,
and
big time.
It puts like little influences in here and there. Like there's certain characters that would be from the manga or the story originally, and like it's just the shape of them, the armor style and everything like that. And I like just to have like read one and then to like play the other, you're kind of like, ooh, I'm getting the references, you know? I feel like I'm included here.
And so you said the Berserk manga.
Yeah. Miyazaki has openly stated that like he's drawn a lot of inspiration from the Dark Souls story and like atmosphere from Berserk. Like he's openly stated that.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
So no, that's brilliant as well. I don't know. I think it's called Lodran, the world of like
Lordran. Yeah.
Lordran. Yeah. That's like the Dark Souls universe that focuses on 1 and 2. Well, I think that like the story doesn't really have a plot per se. Like it has like there's subtle things and stuff like that, and like he said, there's items and armor that might be like you read the description of it and it might tell you it's like this is from an ancient family of a like from generations and generations. And the whole idea is I think there's a curse on this entire realm, and what's happening is like people are just when they die they're coming back, and people are just being like constantly reborn and trying to like rekindle the flames, but like it's such a perilous journey that people keep dying. And it's kind of like the player, you could be the player. People that dropped out of this game are these people, if you get me. Like, so like they get so frustrated with the game they give up, and that's what these hollows within the game are. They're just people that have given up,
lost their minds,
and they lose their minds just from like having to repeat this cycle, never ending. And you're like the main character has to go through this darkness, and like you're not like you're like, maybe let's call you fresh, and then everybody else has been existing from like for generations, like just from all time, all the dead. And there's like these like massive archetypes that like kind of maybe have like thralls within these people. So like you are this fresh person that comes into this horrible realm, and you're like the chosen one. You need to go rekindle these fires, and but when you finally rekindle the main fire, wherever that is, it will basically help banish the curse and kind of retain or return prosperity to this land, and like drive out the like hollows and maybe remedy all the damage that's been done. So like, despite it never being like this is exactly what's happening, like there's no cutscenes, there's no like monologues or anything like that. It's
piecemeal.
The thing about that is like that's the overlaying story that you're kind of like spoon fed if you only play the game like sort of linearly, but kindling the flame like that, you'll find out if you do like all the like hidden side quests and meet the right NPCs, you'll find out that was all like a plan put in place by the gods so they could maintain their reign. And in order to actually like escape the curse, you have to like extinguish the fire and plummet the earth into darkness, and that's supposed to be the age of man. But like those are like most people wouldn't even come across that in their first playthrough.
Interesting. So it's just little bits popped about the place.
Lots of layers to it. And like another thing about it as well is like there's all these like very cool creatures. There's very cool like what's that area? Do you remember in the first Dark Souls anyway? Like there's these snipers that are shooting you on the rooftops.
Oh,
and you're like
Anor Londo.
Yes, that's a very cool place. Like, and then like
that. Oh my god! That
he
was
obviously
one of the
hates
most
it.
difficult parts.
So difficult, yeah. It killed me so many times. But so did that bridge with the snakes and the arrow that shoots across.
Sense Fortress. Yeah, I used to invade there all the time.
After a while, you just learn to use the arrows on the snakes, but for the first few times, you get wrecked.
And so, Colm, in terms of you, Dark Souls, is there any other games that you are a big fan of lore-wise?
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know how to like maybe begin all this, but like I would be very into like the Fallout franchise or the series. I have like a few little things, but basically I want to kind of talk about it like as a series rather than per game, because the things in one game do carry over into the later games. So like you have factions at the beginning of like they usually follow a certain premise that you're a vault dweller, the main character is. So they live in these vaults after a nuclear war, and then they come out into a ravaged wasteland. And from there, the kind of story opens up. Whatever is around them, they deal with. But the great thing about like Fallout games are like I never played the first one. I played a lot of the second one. I went back and played it. Loved the shit out of the third one. The third one was my absolute jam. Like it was fucking amazing. But like so from playing the third one, I just got a bite for it. Kept playing the games. Went back and played more games. And then I started reading books and stuff that were like based like that had heavy influences on the Fallout creators and stuff like that. And there's so many like sci-fi novels novels, amazing sci-fi novels like Canticle for Leibowitz is a big one. You know, like this whole like preservation of technology after a massive nuclear bomb. And then like in Fallout, that's like the main premise. Like one of the factions.
So are these books about the Fallout universe, or are these books
they
that
basically
just
create the
influence?
Fallout universe, and they create this universe, and Fallout takes it from there and goes on with it. So like they take this like massive like kind of thing, like all right, the whole franchise begins with like a massive Fallout, like a nuclear bomb, and then it wipes out all the civilization. What happens then is essentially the best way to describe it is post World War II, these timelines take a divergent. So era World War II, after that, nuclear weapons, bad, don't touch them. This timeline, nuclear weapons, good, embrace it. Let's do whatever we can to like, you know, make this technology the best it can be. And then it develops into these massive cities, like nuclear powered, like fucking sentry robots or Mr. Handyman that like robots that'll clean your house and do whatever the hell you want. But then basically they also start making these fucking, it's called the FED, which is like a fucking forced evolutionary virus. And they start testing this on people. And basically they're creating super soldiers. So they're like making Captain America juice.
Nice.
And you know, Darren, Captain America juice is pretty goddamn cool.
It's good juice.
Yeah. So
good juju.
yeah. So these people are making this like fucking thing that essentially is meant to make people into superhumans. They start doing it on them, and it creates these distorted like fucking gigantic mutants. They become known as super mutants, and then basically they keep on testing on them. They want to create an army of them. For this war that's going on. And then during all of this kind of shit going down, they get bombed. Like bombs just come out of the entire, like all over the place. So like all of America, all of the rest of the world has just been nuked to oblivion. And all of these like centers where they were researching this virus basically release whatever they had into the atmosphere. Animals that they had tested on get exposed to the virus. So there's creatures in the Fallout universe that are fucking amazing. Like they're terrifying. Like the main one that comes to mind when I say that is a Deathclaw.
Oh,
Yes.
Deathclaw. Yeah.
Deathclaw, and basically they're just these fucking geckos that got experimented with, and they are so terrifying in the game. Like if you come across one, you are fucked. And in Fallout 3, I vividly remember coming out of the like settlement, the vault. Like the very first thing that happened is I went to walk across. Like it's not a far journey. It's like a 1 minute walk in the game. And I had to just walk to this town called Megaton. And while I was walking there, a fucking Deathclaw spawned and just destroyed me. And it auto-saved there. And I couldn't not get mauled by the Deathclaw. And for so long, I was stuck in this loop where I was just trying to like flee and run as fast as I could to get away from it. And like just as a hint of how terrifying this creature within this world is.
And not even just the creatures, the world itself, that you're like,
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
off to my first town or first
Yeah.
city. Here I go.
Like I must say, I am a fucking fan of a wasteland, like a post-apocalyptic world, whether it be like nuclear holocaust or like some chemicals, viruses. I don't really mind. I just like the genre, but I think that the Fallout games really, really like embrace that story, like Canticle for Leibowitz, develop on it, and then basically just make it their own. I think the main creator of it as well was like a guy, Brian Fargo, who in like the 80s, he made a game called Wasteland, which I'm also a massive fan of. Both of them are like, you know, made by the same person and just have gone on since then. So essentially just a wasteland-based RPG style thing where consequences, your actions take effect, and you can like side with factions or you can like go at your own. And the factions in the world are also really fucking cool. Like there's the Brotherhood of Steel, who are these guys that go around these power suits, and they're just like miniguns, everything. Like they got like airships, and they also come from this novel, like where like they're basically people that hoard technology and prevent maybe other people using this technology for like negative uses. And so basically they're like the kind of police, but they're kind of shifty as well. Like they have their bad side and their good side.
yeah, I mean, who's going to be like great people,
Yeah.
after a nuclear fallout?
That's it. But then you have like the baddies, let's call them the Enclave, and they're like a kind of government agency that were doing more testing after the nuclear bombs on like people, civilians, and they're trying to get this like army of super mutants to basically like take over the wasteland and purify it. So like, you know, they're like, all right.
Good intentions.
Yeah, well,
Imagine destroying the world and still not learning your lesson.
I know,
Just
right?
like, you know what? If we do this again, it'll probably turn out right.
And they I don't think they even like super mutants. Like they're using them, but they don't like them. So I don't understand why they're like they're making a massive army that will
Yeah.
one day probably be their downfall.
Yeah.
When they try to like, you know, destroy them again.
It's that whole thing, two wrongs do not make a right. 2 nuclear fallouts are not going to purify your problem.
Two negatives
Not
make
usually,
it positive, though.
But that is one main thing about it.
Mathematician Chris over here,
Yeah.
he's got us covered.
Plot point wise, usually the games do follow like a very simple premise, and it's just basically like, let's say you're in the vault, there's like a water chip malfunction, and you have to go explore and find a new water chip, and you have to, maybe in a new game, you have to go find the Gek, which is a fancy way of saying water chip. And
so what you're telling me is every game revolves around getting this water chip.
Yeah, except for New Vegas. In New Vegas, you're just a delivery guy who gets shot in the head, and he's like, well, I want to find out what happened to me. And that's the premise of that one.
Cool.
And then 4 is like, 4 actually has a kind of cool story, but you're looking for your lost son after you got frozen in time, or you got cryogenically frozen, and that's pretty cool as well. But like a 4 I wasn't mad on. Like lore wise, I don't feel it had as much within it, whereas the other games, especially like 3, like when you go exploring, you'll come across magazines and stuff like that, and in the magazines there's all this like cool like detailed comic work, very funny puns, little details like that. There's always reference to like pop culture. Like there's always like these tunnel snakes who are just these Elvis impersonators and shit like that. So like,
and so is that like, because one of the things I'm always interested in, when, like, especially when we thought of this topic, I was like, how is the lore delivered in a game? Like, how do you get to know? So obviously, like the armor thing from from the Bloodborne series, whatever. So how is it delivered in Fallout? Is it just through these kind of magazine things, conversations?
No, not through magazines. No, that's just like additional thing to world building. Now, in terms of like how the plot point comes across, like you would definitely be kind of looking at like main quests and whatnot. But essentially, you have the choice in many of the stories to whether side with the Brotherhood of Steel, who are trying to destroy the Enclave, and then you can side with the Enclave if for some reason you want to be an asshole and ruin the world. So like, no matter what you decide, you'll still get the same lore. Like the same people stand for the same principles, and there's these like factions that are against each other and will like do whatever they can to fight each other. You're just like Clint Eastwood in the movie where 2 factions are trying to fight, and you can pit them against each other. You can join one. You can do whatever you want. And so like from a story perspective, it's fun because you get that kind of like, you get to kind of mix it out, and like, if you want to fuck everybody over in the game, it will let you do that up until like a point where it'll probably lock you out of a conversation because you don't have a high enough stat.
Yeah.
But like, that's just one of the things that comes with those kinds of games. But like, in terms of the lore, again, I do think that like the post-apocalyptic nuclear war, this virus goes around, makes all the ants, all the fucking like bugs, the flies, the scorpions, the rats, they all just become ginormous, and like the people that are just surviving in a barren wasteland have to deal with these creatures on a daily fucking basis, and some of them are terrifying.
Way to fucking have to live the rest of your life. My God.
It is a bleak world. It is for sure a very bleak world.
When you describe all these like giant insects and animals and stuff, it makes me think of a really like one of my favorite like levels or like designs in a game is when you're really tiny and everything in the world is normal, but it's just gigantic. Like, I don't know if you ever play like World 4 in Super Mario or something like that.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah,
like everything's bigger, or like the Toy Soldier games where
you're
just like in a real setting, but things are just
massive.
Giant. There's a Grounded game out there. Yeah, I just like that.
But it's just
obviously this is different. It's mutated animals, but it's kind of got the same feel.
Where everything's fucking huge.
Yeah.
That's it. So I think, for me anyway, that's why I would enjoy this lore, is because it kind of develops on a horrible post-apocalyptic world. And as I already said, I'm a big fan of sci-fi and that style. So for me, it's like an expansion on books that I really enjoy. And I'm just like, yes, I get to be in this awful world and then turn it off and snuggle up in a nice warm bed.
And pray that no one pushes the nuke button.
Exactly.
In my real world. Interesting you should pick kind of post-apocalyptic world, because the one I wanted to talk about is entirely based on that. And I'm going to put it out here because I'm going to ruin this fucking game, okay, story-wise. So your last warning, this is a spoiler for Horizon, the series. I haven't finished Burning Shores yet, the DLC, but I platinumed Horizon 1 and Horizon 2. And I think the reason I platinumed them, or was so excited to platinum, because of the background story. You are 1,000 years in the future. It's all tribal people. You've just got bow and arrows and old school weapons, and for some reason there are robots in the style of creatures from the past. You've got like birds, raptors, elephants, all these alligators, hippos. They all take on these forms of animals. So when you start playing the game, you're like, how did it, that was one of the questions that I always had, was how did it end up here? Like, what is the story? And I think Horizon had a really interesting way on delivering that, because you're 1,000 years in the future. It's like the year 3060, and I think in the year 2065, the normal world, our world, got completely fucked up. So the technology was incredibly good because, as the story goes, they had to fight climate change. You know, it was very much based on kind of real life situations. And in the world's quest to defeat climate change, there was this kind of global, like, unity of technological advancement to these amazing things, you know. So one of the things you find early on in the game is this thing called a focus, which the main character pins on her ear, and she can, like, projects a thing in front of her eyes, so she can see a lot from the ancient world in front of her, that not a lot of other people can see. So she becomes the chosen one based on the fact that she's able to use this tech and see lots of things that all these simple tribal people just can't.
And if the other simple people were to just put it on them, would it work?
Yes. And
okay.
What's great is that she finds loads. It's like in the end of the first game being the second game, she finds a cache of these things and starts giving them to people, and they all learn. But what I love about it was that you don't know what happened to humanity until the very end of the game, essentially. But the whole time you're going through, so it's called Zero Dawn. The first game is called Zero Dawn, and you know that the attempt to save humanity was known as Zero Dawn. So I was playing through the game, and my assumption was, this is this great thing, this kind of maybe like final battle or a weapon they were trying to use to defend themselves against the calamity. So as time goes on, you learn, and this is what I love about the game, is that the focus can detect old tech that might still have a signal or might still work 1,000 years later. So it picks up on old documents, old text messages to people, old audio recordings, holograms, things like that. And that's how you learn, like, piecemeal as you play through the game. And a lot of it isn't like, a lot of it is side quest stuff, but you get so much from it. One of my favorite things in it, and because the game is a massive collectathon, there's these things called viewing points in the game. So you go to nice areas of the map and you have to get a viewing point. And what it is this guy, when he knew the world was going to enter apocalypse, he was this, and that's what I love. There's these just the little bits of lore, is that he was a guy recovering drug addict, and he called it the apocalypse shitstorm tour. So he was going to visit all these places that he wanted to before the apocalypse hit, because he was like, the world's fucked, I'm going to go see all these places. What's very cool is he left a little piece of tech in every viewing spot that he went to with a little message from himself being like, day 7 of the apocalypse tour or whatever, and he takes a picture of whatever he was at. And it's cool because when you arrive there, it's old ancient ruins. But when you turn on the focus, you can visualize the picture that he would have taken of the ancient world, and you have to match that over the ruins. You have to find, it's that thing, we find a right angle, match it over, and then you can listen to an audio thing about, like, and it's just this lore of, like, these normal people at the end of their lives.
Are they like real structures that we'd know? Like, just like, I mean, it turns out this was the Eiffel Tower.
No, so you're in America. You're in kind of.
That's right. I guess.
So none of your, but there's, like, football stadiums. Some of them are like military bases and things like that we might not have seen, but like other things are just like cool huts and stuff that would have been there for animal preservation in the north and things like that, North America. But it's this little bit into this, and it's cool because it's this guy who's a recovering drug addict, so he's got loads of issues, but he's just talking about his regrets and everything like that. And, well, it's all come to this, the world's fucked and it's going to end. And you're like, why is it going to end? Like, what happened? And you go through and you learn all these things, and it's so well done in terms of there's so much that you can just pick up on, like text messages from one person to another at the end of days. They're just random little pieces out in the wild. They're not things you have to collect. But there's so much you learn about it. One of my favorite pieces is towards the end of the game, the first game, you come to this structure where you believe that Zero Dawn was created. And you're like, okay, well, here it is. Here's what they were trying to do to save humanity. So what basically happened is you learn that through the technology developed from climate change, they fixed climate change, the world was restoring itself, and the guy in charge of that big tech, this guy called Ted Farrow, decided he'd move that technology into private military. So shit's going to go wrong. Develops these robots, super intelligent robots that can hijack any sort of tech that the other side might possess. So if you're, and it was lots of this was modern warfare, so they'd go over and these machines could just take over drones and then use them to attack their opposition. And then they wouldn't use normal fuel, they would use biofuel. So they would take from wherever they were, just like landmass, and just use it to turn into biofuel and keep going. So they were non-stop. But they could control them, or so they thought, but there was a glitch. And these things started multiplying and taking up so much biomass that humanity realized at some point, well, like, we've got to destroy these things or there's no time. And as you go and you're learning all these pieces of information, these little phone bits, audio messages, holograms left for family members, you're kind of learning that, like, okay, there's this thing called enduring victory, and it's that humanity's last stand against these robots because they realize that the amount of biomass that they're using to fuel this massive army of robots that now has gone sentient or like it's under its own control, they need to be able to stop this. So you learn this thing called enduring victory. You're like, oh, this must have been humanity's last stand. And the coolest thing about it is you go into this the final area, and you're listening to holograms and you're reading things from files, because it's everything. This is where the base was, so all the tech is here for you to scan and read, and like read documents and listen to audio things and watch holograms. And like the big twist with it at the end is that you have a hologram of like the Army General, the acting Army General of the United States. And he's like, so if you've come here, or if you've selected here, we've selected you, you're a scientist of renown. So people who went to this place were kind of kidnapped scientists from around the world to come here. And he's like, you're here to help us with Project Zero Dawn. Now, what you would have heard is our project called Enduring Victory. Enduring Victory is a lie. And you're like, what the hell? So Zero Dawn was this thing where they knew they only had 15 months left until 0 day, essentially. So humanity, there was no hope. It was over. So Enduring Victory was this thing that, like, you know, the propaganda to be like, hey, this big push, this one last push, and we can beat the robots. But they were just sacrificing humanity to give time to these scientists to develop this thing called Zero Dawn. And all it was at the end of the game that you realize is that they were never going to win. They were just building this tech and this AI system that would terraform the Earth like hundreds of years later, and then through like cloning facilities or whatever else would birth new humans, so that sometime in the future they would go ahead and learn. But the way it's given to you, and like there's so much, I mean, I could go like super deep into it, because, you know, in the latest game, they've got this group called, or like this whole tribe who worship the gods, or their whole phrase is on the wings of the 10. And they, you know, the way they portray it is like, oh, these flying gods of the past. And you realize that it was this regiment of like Air Force, you know, like of the Air Force essentially, who were some of the greatest pilots of their time, who gave their last hours to like try and destroy huge, you know, groups of robots and stuff like that, and drop nuclear weapons on them to give time to create Zero Dawn. But these tribe people think that he was like these flying gods. But you have the text, you know, it's like, no, it's just fucking bunch of individuals who were. But it's how those things are sold to you. You're like, God, these guys, who the fuck are the 10? And you go to a museum, like an old museum with all this old tech, and you're listening to all the audio points. Like, it's just all they do is like love these guys who flew in like fucking jets, like, you know, destroying things.
And is it like their church, or do they even know about it? You know.
So they were, and it's cool because they were discovering like these old holograms were working for like the normal people in this old museum that was completely destroyed, but some of it still survives. But all these old holograms still worked, but only a section of the recording was played. So they only heard of like the wings of the 10, which was like a phrase that this group used to do before they went out to war. But like these guys treat it as a god, so a whole religion forms over
That's pretty dope. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Can I ask you a quick one just about that as well? Like, so in the plot point, you were saying that the Zero Dawn was basically to create like a terraforming thing that will like give life to humans again in the future.
Yes.
Are you? What's the main character's name?
Aloy.
Is Aloy from that, or is she a survivor?
So Aloy, interestingly enough, is, and like, you know, I would recommend anybody to play it because the lore of the story is very, very cool. But Aloy is essentially, she's a clone of one of the scientists who, the main scientist behind Zero Dawn was this person called Elizabeth Sobeck. And you realize that they took some of her DNA to clone her in the hopes that that person would come back and be super smart. And the whole thing was Zero Dawn didn't work the way it was meant to. There was a malfunction in the 100 years that it was dormant, in that there was meant to be this, like, you know, kids would be born and they would be cared for by robots and they reach a certain age, and then they would look after the next line of kids, and all the while they put them through a school, and the school was literally these focuses. So kids would put these focus things in, and it would tell them everything about the ancient past and how they could learn from their mistakes. But as it turned out, your man Ted Farrow, who created the robots, who essentially ended all humanity, he was a super like narcissistic fella who couldn't live with the fact that he would be known for all time as the guy who destroyed humanity. So he, you know, before this thing was released, he killed the last of the scientists, you know, in secret, and removed that from the system, so nobody could learn. Like, all of the stuff for humanity was lost. There's no way people could learn from the mistakes. Not all the information was there, but because you find this focus in an ancient ruin somewhere, Aloy is able to pick up on some of it. But it's like that. Like, there's so much stuff. It's what I love about games and lore. Essentially, is that there's so much stuff you learn about their version of our lives, our history, that you just pick up from random places in the world through holograms, documents, audio tapes, people talking to each other, just text messages from loved ones and things like that at the end of days. And like the whole time I was playing through it, it's a game I'd love to play through again without the knowledge. But it's a love, it's such a great, like the twist at the end is great, that you realize that they knew there was no hope, and the whole plan was just to save humanity 1,000 years later.
Very cool.
Pretty awesome. I like that idea of just like normal Air Force pilots being worshipped. I always wonder, like, if we were to end up in some sort of like apocalyptic state and there's just like remnants of humanity, like, and everything's been forgotten. And then somebody comes across like a library one day and finds like a book or like Chuck Norris. Yeah, he would be the guy. No, somebody just like comes across a book or like a comic book of like Halo, and then suddenly Master Chief becomes the new Jesus. Like, but oh my God, this guy could have saved us.
But that all that kind of stuff is cool. It's like what those people without the focus, what they were able to pick up on from the ancient world, and they created entire tribes and religions and everything from. So it's a really, really cool concept. And like I says, there's like 2 games with 2 major DLCs worth of that lore and little interesting bits. Like it goes through it, like, you don't have to pay attention to it, but in the second game it talks, if you follow a document trail, it'll talk about a guy that saved Las Vegas because the climate was getting so bad it was impossible to be outside in Las Vegas. Like the roads melted, all that kind of stuff. So he, you could just listen to this thing about this guy who found out how to purify water systems, and he moved Las Vegas to underground, to like what was essentially New Vegas, but it was an underground Las Vegas that he created. And you never need to know anything. It's nothing to do with the storyline. It's just if you cared enough, you go into these places and read those documents.
And, well, that's the whole point of lore, like, or just these games, because I'm not a big narrative guy, as we know, but like some games are just like, I need to know more, and I'm not going to sit here like Cyberpunk. I'm not going to read every data shard, so I'll find somebody who's like compiled all that and give me the information.
Someone to do the work for me.
Yeah.
So, Chris, have you got any others?
I do have one, and this is in a drastically different direction than Horizon. There's not much thought to this next lore or timeline and story. It's just direct and badass, and that is Doom.
Doom.
I fucking love Doom, and it's so just batshit crazy because he's just the guy. He gets like dishonorably like discharged from the military and ends up working some like shitty security job on another planet, and it's all just like very basic level storytelling. Just because back in the day, all they wanted to do was make a fantastic game, and they kind of like wrote the story afterwards and like, okay, this happened, and they've been trying to piece it together over the years, but it just gets like, the one thing they've hung on to is Doom guy is fucking amazing. He's just a monster, and like he battles through these waves of demons, often goes into hell, closes the portal, jumps back out, and like at one point he ends up back on Earth, and he finds out his whole family has been killed, and he's just like, all right, there's nothing left, so now all I am is
Doom guy.
Doom guy. Yeah, this is my life now, and like they're trying to evacuate Earth, so he just does what he does, kills all the demons, and gives humanity time to escape, and he's the last remaining human on Earth. And he finds out, they radio him, they find out that like the invasion, like the portal started there in his home city, so he goes, jumps into hell, kicks the shit out of a bunch of demons, comes back out, and then they like just give him this job. They're just like, this is what you do now. Like, we're going to keep fucking around with portal technology because we're safe, because we have you. And his life goes on like this, right? This is every Doom game, right? He ends up somewhere else, has to go in, close a portal. At one point, he's just like, you know what? I'm tired of this. I'm just going to stay in hell. And he does that, and he just destroys all these demons. And they actually vanquish him. Like, he's too threatening to the demons that they actually vanquish him from hell. They're just like, no, you're not allowed to be here.
And I love the idea of playing as a main character who the enemy is scared of.
Yeah, exactly.
That shit's dope.
No, like, this is where like that is just like the setup of for when things get hilarious to me and like super fun. Is so they vanquish him. He eventually gets back in, Like he fights his way. He's like, no, you guys can't get rid of me. But over the course of the whole series, he eventually actually develops superpowers. Like
I was gonna say, is he a super soldier?
He
or
eventually does by some like alien race. I mean, there's a lot of games out there, and like, I mean, they had to throw a bunch of stuff in. But like the superpower is like, the more he kills, the stronger he gets. So he's like, fuck it, I'm going back into hell, and he spends like eons and eons in hell, just like destroying demons to the point where they work him into the like foundation, the annals of history in hell. Like new generations of demons are brought up and raised by being like they're told stories from like
there's
when
this devil
born.
that exists.
Yeah,
in hell.
there's a boogeyman. There's a boogeyman out there, and eventually, sooner or later, he will come for you. And it's just the Doom guy. Like by this point, they call him the Doom Slayer. Because he's like the biggest. He is the boogeyman. He is demons Michael Myers.
That's got like a Rick and Morty episode written all over it.
Yeah, no, that's the funny part, because you have to assume at some point, because he was down there for hundreds and hundreds of years, right? At some point in the history of hell, there must have been like a group of tween demons sitting around a corpse fire at summer hell camp, telling horror stories about
Doom
the
guy.
Doom guy.
Yeah.
And he's just a human, and they can't kill him. And they eventually like just trap him because they can't do anything about him. And they lock him in this like sarcophagus and this temple. And they just like scribble all these hieroglyphics and like leave his symbol all over it and a bunch of warnings like, don't open this. Do not let him out. And it's demons we're talking about. And it's like the voice. Like
I love that they're just fucking terrified of him. Like,
and when you say they can't kill him, like, is it that like he does die? Like, you know, when you play the game, you'll die regularly. Like, you might just get fucked up. And
I know, but every death you have is expected to not be canonical.
Oh, okay, so I wasn't sure if it was like while he's in hell, you just die and you just get reborn. He's just still pissed. He's like, I'm just a raging berserker.
Yes, that could be it too. No, he just doesn't die. Like even like when the alien race that imbues him with the powers find him, they were just like, well, he's an outsider, so they have this like trial. We're just like, any outsider we find, we just throw him in the pits, and they're just like gladiators, and you know they have to fight to survival. And he just kills everything they throw at him, and they're just like, okay, put him in the army right now.
it's like a much more exciting Superman. That was always my thing with Superman as a hero, was that he's really boring because he's unbeatable. Oh, kryptonite, that's the only thing that can kill him. It's like I find Superman to be one of the most boring superheroes out there.
I get that.
But to take the twist on that and to make this guy, like, you know, because everyone's like, oh, you know, all the bad guys scared of Superman. It's like, well, we've got this other guy called Doom Guy that no one can defeat, and all the fucking hell demons that you're scared of are terrified of this guy, but you play as him. I love that, like, you know, the unbeatable mascot. That's cool.
It's just bad shit. I love it so much.
But
there's not much story to it. It's just like,
but that's enough for
I
me,
know.
though, you know.
I mean, and it's Doom. Like you're not really.
You're not in it for the
Doom.
narrative.
You're going in for the to rip and tear, guts and glory.
Just to bring down the stress levels. Do you know what I mean? It's such a good game for like just relaxing, you know. Colin, you got any other? I mean, like time wise, we're running pretty heavy here, so I might give you one more if you want to pick your.
Sure, I can do. I won't talk too long about it, but actually I'll give you guys the option, and this is an option for you both. Okay, so I can
love choice.
They're both very similar fantasy worlds. One I'd prefer kind of to talk about, and the other one I would be able to talk about because it's so vast in lore and stuff. So the one I think is vast in lore is Skyrim.
Very good.
Naturally, okay, we don't have to talk about it.
Elder Scrolls in general.
Elder Scrolls in general, but like even just from Skyrim, you have all those factions and stuff like that. Like I don't want to go into that one specifically because the other option is the Witcher franchise, and like that bit me real hard, especially when the show came out. I read books, I read through the entire series, and I just have such an appreciation for the lore and the background of characters. Like when you play that game, you might not necessarily know who a character is, but you're kind of like, oh, they've got a relationship here. There's some kind of rapport. And then when you, like for me anyway, having read the books, it's kind of like, ooh, I'm in on this previous conversation. And I do take a little bit of like a little satisfaction from those little details.
And I do enjoy lore in that sense when it's coming from a couple of different mediums. One thing that Luke always said to me was that some of the Halo books are insanely good.
I was about to bring it up. Like when a game actually like interests you that much to like go out and read
more stuff about
read
it.
the actual books.
Visually, it's so cool as well,
It's,
though.
yeah. I mean, that is something special. Like
I think-
I did read like Halo. They weren't all good. Like Halo, not the first book, but like it's the book about the first game. Literally reads like you're playing the game. It's pretty awful. But Halo Reach.
Yes, I think that's the one
Fantastic.
that Luke was talking about.
And
it's good there.
I've read my fair share of Warcraft books too, and yeah.
That shit's good. So, Colm, I think my choice. I'll see what Chris wants to do as well. But I would love to hear more about The Witcher.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah?
absolutely, yeah.
Oh.
The moment you said you started reading the books too, it was like, there's the gold medal.
Yeah. Well, have you both played Witcher 2 and or 3?
Oh, I've only played 3.
I've
Only
only,
three, yeah.
only played 3, haven't finished it, but I'm up to date on the TV show and have read the book of short stories and then the first like 2 or 3 books in the main
lovely.
series.
All right.
Did you watch the anime show?
Yeah, that was cool.
That was so good.
I didn't see
that,
it, no.
In terms of like the books and stuff, like the Witchers shouldn't be that strong.
I know.
And then even in the
his-
show,
his
they're not. You know,
Igni or whatever.
Yeah,
it's just
yeah,
like a giant, just like a Kamehameha. It's
it's
crazy.
if you haven't seen, I think it's called Something of the Wolf.
Yeah.
It's a funny one because I guess maybe like anime is something that my dad definitely can't get behind because he loves The Witcher, the TV show.
Yeah.
And then I was like, Dad, you should watch this other thing because I hadn't even seen it. And I was like, you watch this other thing on Netflix. It's just some more stuff to do with The Witcher. And I'd heard great things, which is why I recommended it. And I was like, hey, Dad, what you think about that? It's like, I didn't enjoy that very much at all. I was like, okay, fair.
Yeah. Well, like in this Witcher world, like yourselves, like it's similar to like any series. It has multiple games, but they are all in the same universe. So whatever sticks in the first game will continue on as history. Like it's canonical. Even with decisions, again, you can kind of change that around. But the great thing with The Witcher is it just has so many interesting properties. Like even the Witcher themselves, they're like these genetically fucking modified human beings that are like given this like drug and chemicals. Just to basically heighten their senses to make them more adept at killing and slaying monsters. Like that's their entire trait.
It wasn't the main reason of the augmentation to be able to handle their potions and survive. I thought that was the whole idea behind it.
Well,
so they can drink that. And
yeah, so everything that they drink is extremely toxic. So like if a Witcher was to drink a health potion, if he was to give it to somebody like, here, drink this health potion, that would murder them. Like they would die straight away. So yeah, everything that is done to them, like there's different levels of it. And this is what's also interesting in the books. It happens early as well. So it shouldn't be a spoiler. I don't want to go into too deep into the books because one is the show and then you also have the books. So mostly just game kind of stuff. But yeah.
I hear the show's kind of fallen from grace.
The second season lost me already, but third season probably won't get better.
Well, I mean, I watched. So there's only 2 seasons out, right? Or is it 3?
There's a third out now, and it's Henry Cavill's last season before Liam's.
Is it out now?
In. I don't know.
No, I think it's coming out soon. I have to say, I was reading the books around the same time, so I was literally like seeing the visualization of the books I was reading to an extent. But I mean, Henry Cavill left because he's a giant nerd, so he was big.
And they were faithful enough to the lore.
Yeah. And look, the problem. All right, here's an example of what I have a problem with in the book, and this shouldn't be a spoiler because in the second season of The Witcher, there's an episode with Eskel in it, and at the very beginning of the episode, Eskel comes back mortally wounded, and he's not mortally wounded, he's just wounded, and then it turns out midway through that he's got this leech in him, and it's turning him into like a fucking lichen or a tree monster.
Oh, the Lechi or the...
He's not actually one of them. He's just some new creature, like some fucking shitty thing. But anyway, Henry Cavill, like in the show, I'm just expecting like he'll just be able to like remove the curse or whatever. But it doesn't go that route, and he just fucking has to kill Eskel. And I'm like, right, number one, in the games, Eskel is like a fucking friend who accompanies you on missions and stuff like that. Like you go hunting with him and Lambert, and like they're like the 3 of them and Cohen are these like kind of 4 main Witchers that come from the School of the Wolf. And I'm just like, all right, you got to treat these guys with respect. And they kill them off in the second season. And even in the books, he doesn't die. Like not like that anyway. Like it's just, it was so not offensive, but it was just like, if you're like into a book or the lore of something and then to have it not done justice and for not even a beneficial way, like if they did it differently and it paid off and it was cool, I'd like it, but it didn't pay off. It was
adaptations can be really hit and miss. As a Wheel of Time, we're talking about fantasy books here. As a Wheel of Time fan, that TV show, that murdered it.
I think the whole killing off characters thing, it like Game of Thrones made it like too popular, and now everyone's trying to throw it in there.
But in fairness, like, and I can see why Henry Cavill would have had a problem and left, because they weren't sticking to the lore or the story in the truest way they could have. But again, I think it's so hard to put things to TV to hold an audience. And I knew that he didn't die that way, but when I watched that episode, I was like, this is pretty exciting stuff. At least I thought so anyway. I was like, this isn't true to the books, but I'm enjoying this new twist,
I get that. All right, and here's one of the things, and I don't want to talk about the show, I'd rather talk about the game, but really quickly, biggest gripe with that second season is they had no respect for a Witcher. Okay, at the second last episode or last episode, a portal opens up and all these demons come rushing out and basically slaughter every Witcher in the fucking Kaer Morhen. And I'm like, you had a very limited resource of characters that can become recurring, and you just destroyed all of them and left it with just like a handful. And I'm like, that's not like, there's other schools, there's other things like this and all, but like they didn't need to just make it look like a Witcher is nothing, they just died so fast and pointlessly. It was awful.
I can see the pain in your face.
Yeah. And her series Weekend Training, and now she's just like, she did that really tiny obstacle course, and they're like, now she's a Witcher.
And it's cool. Like, in the books and even in the game, like they see that, like you see Ciri's training montage through Geralt's memories and stuff. In the books, like she keeps trying to do it and keeps failing, and like it is like a struggle, like an entire book. Like Ciri in the books is a primary character, like especially after maybe the third book, it follows her primarily, and the like lore behind her and her family is very, very interesting. Like there's characters that I don't know where the series spoiled it or not. Did you, at the end of the second season, what does the king say about Ciri, the king of Nilfgaard? Because I don't want to spoil it, but if it's already common
I don't know
knowledge,
the exact words, but I know who he is.
Do you know who he is to Ciri? The emperor guy who's like sending people out to find Ciri.
Oh, then the guy who looks for her himself? No.
No, that guy's name is Kair.
Oh, he's
awesome.
He's meant to be her dad, isn't it?
It is her dad, yes.
Okay. Spoilers. I warned you at the start of the episode.
Yeah. So, right. So we can go ahead with this, even though I kind of coerced you into knowing it was.
Look, I was trying to think, was it? Yeah, but yes, I remember the scene now at literally the last one of the last scenes.
Yeah. So like in the books, like that's a big kind of like thing. It'll come in later, but like the show got into it quite early. And then in the third game, like the premise is that he is sending you off to find his daughter Ciri. They've had their disagreements, and it's just like, all right, Geralt, she loves you and you love her. I don't like you, but I know you'll look after her. So I'm sending you to, like, he's like, I'm going to give you money to go protect my daughter. And you being Geralt, you can be just like, I'll take your money. Or you could just be like, shove your money up your ass. I'm going to go to find my daughter. And it's just like these like kind of cool things. But again, you just have this Nilfgaardian army who are invading all of this area, this landmass. And his daughter is like the princess of that as well. And she has this royal blood that descends from like, I don't even know how you describe them, but there's like this, in like the Witcher
elves
universe,
or like ancient elves, aren't they?
She's like a breed of elf. Yeah, there's like not genetically. There's just a special breed of high elf, and if the girls, the elder blood, and like these elder blood, like the seventh born child, female child, is supposed to inherit the powers of a woman called Laura Dorn. And basically, she held like this great power, like eons ago. And then there's like characters like elves that recur that were like, because the elves live for fucking crazy amounts of time. There's like an elf called Avalok who was in love with Laura Dorn. And then later in the story, he's helping Ciri because she resembles Laura Dorn. And it's like, you're kind of like, oh, this is kind of creepy. And you don't know to trust this guy as an ally or a villain. And he, like in previous games, he's a villain. And then in this situation, because it's Ciri, he's not a villain. And it's just like this overarching stories that kind of keep on joining together. So you've got like Ciri going off on her quest, building her own relationships, Geralt going off on his quest, slaying monsters, being like getting this reputation. And the thing with Geralt as well is that he doesn't age. So while Ciri's a young girl growing up, he's just traveling around, just slaying monsters. She's training in Kaer Morhen and getting more functional with like slaying like monsters and stuff like that without any modifications that a Witcher has. And she's able to use like her ancestral powers to fucking.
You could do the blink dash. I love
Yeah,
that
yeah,
shit.
yeah. From a gaming mechanic, that blink dash is super cool.
Yeah.
But it's just like, look, you could go into it all, like even just the different schools, the bear, the wolf, the cat, and all that kind of stuff. Like you could break down so much, and I'm sure there's YouTube videos where you could go into The Witcher and just like ask them to like go through all the different kind of witchers that are out there, all the villains that have crossed over, because like witchers aren't necessarily good people either. So some of them have really cool backstories, and you can kind of like quests will make you meet other witchers. And then there's like, well, this is just a really cool example, there's like one witcher you come across and he's after murdering an entire town. And then Geralt's like, right, I'm gonna have to fucking kill you. And he's like, no, you can't kill me, like blah blah blah. And then he tells you his side of events, and he slayed a monster for this town. And then they were like, oh, we can't pay you. And he's like, you have to pay me, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm not leaving till you pay me. So they're like, all right, come around to this barn and we'll give you the money. And he's like, what the hell is going on here? And while he's looking at what they're trying to show him, someone else comes out with a pitchfork and stabs him through the chest from behind. And in retaliation, he kills that guy. Everybody else in the town, except for like a little girl, and that little girl Geralt finds in the woods and like finds his way to this witcher. And then you have that choice, that dilemma, whether he was right to. He obviously wasn't right,
to murder the entire town.
Like they did.
But they didn't pay him his tree fitting.
Yeah. I want my tree fitting.
It's what. Like when it comes to fantasy, one of the things that, you know, it's a thought I have from time to time, and it blows my mind every time I think about it, because you've got our history, like, you know, just the history that we have, the history books, the history that we learn in school, ancient Rome, the wars, everything. But then as a person who was playing D&D, DMing for quite a long time, and creating my own like homebrew and world in there, I was like, that's a whole world inside of my head. And you've got people who've created The Witcher, Lord of the Rings, Wheel of Time, and these are just the published people. So I find it astonishing that out there in the world, on our planet Earth right now, with however like billions of people there are billions more worlds, galaxies, you know, all these things that have been thought of. And some of it never, you know, went from pen to paper. Some of it was never published and became good work. But I just love like that we can sit around here at a table and talk about lore that humans have created, and there's so much of it out there.
There is. And
Lord of the Rings is particularly crazy because there's just like entire languages, like multiple languages, and just like all sorts of maps of the world.
And
like,
that would be the same. Like, so like I wouldn't be a massive Star Trek fan, but like that, there's like languages that fans develop and stuff like that. Like in terms of lore, another one would be kind of like fan fiction, you know, like fan fiction. Sometimes that elevates the lore of something
absolutely.
or other, you know.
Like I already talked about with Dark Souls. A lot of it was, you call it theory crafting, but you know that's it, the lines are kind of blurry between what is theory crafting and what is fan fiction. And it's
and like Star Wars, some of the best stuff that was ever created in Star Wars was fan made,
or just extended universe that's not canon anymore. Like the whole like Rule of Two, like Bane and all that. Like that is my favorite part.
Yeah,
so
big fan of all that. Like I think the Star Wars like non-canon stuff now, some of that was really, really cool. Yeah. A little shout out, I don't know the name of the channel, but there's like YouTube videos that I used to go through the habit of. Yeah, like I watched a few of them with you, right? Stay
up so late watching about all the different Sith Lords in the past and everything.
It was
like
just
that
like Star Wars lore. It was something along them lines.
And it would have, because that's what I thought was fascinating. Again, we're going off top. I need to finish up the episode at some point. But what I loved about that was that you'd have. And this is what I mean about lore and how much is out there and how much people get sucked into it. But we were watching those Star Wars videos, and it was about really obscure characters. But the whole video would be filled with fan art and stuff that people would have made of this really obscure Star Wars characters only mentioned once. Like I had this fact file growing up, this Star Wars fact file, and you could pick a magazine every week. Do you know what I mean? Like this subscription thing, get a magazine every week. And so I was like, the fuck is this guy? But I loved it. It was just this random person, this random planet you never heard of, and it was just a whole backstory, a whole thing. And I was like, shit. And I always blows my mind because it's the Star Wars, the Star Treks, the Lord of the Rings, the Wheel of Times, the Witcher, the stuff that made it to publishing, that got out into the that we all have read. The amount of stuff that we haven't discovered of all these lore based things is just phenomenal.
I remember. What really wrinkled my brain was finding out that like the lightsabers, different colors, meant different things, or just like they were like adept in different areas, or they had different jobs.
And the yellow lightsabers that they've overcome,
The Sentinels. Well, based on the Knights of the Old Republic games, the Guardians are the blue, the Sentinels are the kind of yellow or orange, and then the Counselors, I think they're called, are the green.
Yeah.
So like the Qui-Gon Jinns are the green.
And they even worked in, because we all know Samuel L. Jackson wanted purple, so he got purple. But they even worked that in, like canonically, is because he fights with, I think it's the sixth form or whatever, which is
he's seen darkness or something.
It's the closest to
being like, a dark
side.
Sith,
so it's a mixture between blue and red.
Yeah.
So they get the purple.
And like it's so funny as well to think. I mean, how pissed would you be if you were George Lucas, who's created this entire world, right? And you've never once fucking thought about a purple lightsaber, and you have to like canonically put it in your series because some fucking egotistical actor was like, I want a damn purple lightsaber if you want me in your movie.
I actually saw a documentary recently as well where it's just that scene where it literally happens in about the space of 5 to 6 seconds, and basically George Lucas goes, so these are the lightsabers, you can have blue, green, or red. But red are for the bad guys. They're like, can I have purple? And he's like, I guess you could do purple. And that's that.
Yeah. You just don't want to lose Samuel L. Jackson. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'd say he's the guy who'd walk out in an instant of that kind of scenario.
Hearing it in those words, maybe he was just saying it as a joke, and Lucas
and George Lucas was like,
fine.
Well, I can pick a backstory for this, you know. Yeah, he kind of went off the rails, but I guess we do. I mean, I could talk about lore forever, guys, but I guess we do have to finish it here. Before we do go, and I won't go into too much, but I say if you want to put an honorable mention, because I know you guys might have had a bit more, I'm just going to say this because it would be rude of me not to, and I bring it up every episode. It is my shtick. I do love the Kingdom Hearts lore.
There it is.
Keyblade Wars, and I'm just putting this out there for people to check out because it's cool stuff. I'm not going to go into it. Keyblade Wars, and the idea that if you lose your heart, you can create this nobody version of you who has no purpose. A cool concept, not delivered well by Nomura, unfortunately, in those games. It's convoluted as fuck, but a great conceptual piece to the story. Chris, have you got anything you want to throw in there?
Losing your heart and becoming a nobody is essentially just the undead becoming hollow in Dark Souls. It's the same concept.
Which one came first? Probably Dark Souls.
No, Kingdom Hearts came first.
Oh boy, is Dark Souls robbing Kingdom Hearts ideas?
I guess so.
Oh damn.
They just did it much better.
I won't deny that. I'll give you that one for sure. Any honorable mention, Chris, or are you good? You covered?
I mentioned I read Warcraft books. I've always been a big fan of Warcraft in the past, but I mean, they went with like timeline changes or time traveling and just like timeline changes, and things kind of went
a bit messy,
a little wild. I miss the old days when it was just orcs versus humans.
Yeah, simple things. And Colm, any last honorable mention?
Just an honorable mention with no chats about it, please. But Mass Effect, I think that has some great lore behind it as well.
Yeah, it's on my honorable mentions list, and it's one that I would encourage anybody. BioWare at their best, that galaxy essentially that they created. That's what I mean. Fucking the people created, the writers team at BioShock created an entire galaxy worth of lore. Like that shit's crazy. We have our own galaxy, and they created their own one, different
and
one ours.
Can I just say as well, this is just another thing. So my brother Craig, who appears on the podcast regularly, playing games like XCOM, he will write people's names, give them a backstory and stuff like that. And every single one of those tiny planets has a massive backstory. It has statistics in like Mass Effect 1 anyway. Like when you scan these things, they have all these details in a massive fucking solar system, multiple solar systems. Like somebody had to sit down one day and actually write that. And like it could be all gibberish after a while if you actually read it. I've never read any of it. But like, like oh, that's cool.
Like
but I'm just going to scan, get my resource and go.
The data shards in Cyberpunk is like, there's no fucking way I'm reading all that.
Of course. Why would you? If it plays for me while I run around and do shit, then I'm like, okay, this is
good
fine.
enough for me. But that's the lore episode, guys. Colm, Chris, thank you very much for hopping on this one. If you like the content, we're about to go into our post show and do a quick little post show on our favorite cheat codes. Hope you guys remembered that. Maybe not.
Oh, I
do something. Okay, Chris has it.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be really good. Trust me, Colm's going to come up with some really good stuff for this episode.
Really good. So good.
Yeah. But listen, guys, thanks very much for joining us. Again, if you want to listen to the post-show stuff, hit on our patreon.com/giftedgaming. And until then, dear listeners, keep enjoying the gift that is gaming. Peace out, guys.
Peace out.